The last time the U.S. formally declared war, color television didn't exist.
December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
So, how do you explain military conflicts since the 40s, like the Vietnam War or the War on Terror? That's where an authorization for use of military force comes in, or an A.U.M.F. So what is an A.U.M.F, and how exactly is it used? The 1973 War Powers Act granted presidential authority to initiate military operations without congressional approval, so long as Congress is notified within 48 hours and operations last no more than 90 days. Any longer than that, and Congress would have to pass a separate authorization. Enter an A.U.M.F. Handed down to the President from Congress. An A.U.M.F. authorizes the President to continue deploying military force and can set an expiration date for when an operation must end. Unlike a declaration of war, an A.U.M.F. doesn't acknowledge that war exists, but rather functions as a permission slip for the President to execute military options within that authorization's parameters. A.U.M.Fs can be narrow. In 1798, President John Adams was authorized to protect U.S. commercial ships from the French Navy. A.U.M.Fs can also be broad. 2 authorizations were issued under the George W. Bush administration. In 2001, responding to the September 11th terror attacks, and in 2002, authorizing the invasion of Iraq.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
Both are still in effect today. The 2001 authorization simply gave the U.S. authority to use military force against those responsible for 9/11 and did not include territorial limits or a sunset clause. The Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations have cited the 2001 A.U.M.F. as justification for numerous military actions. Presidents and the Pentagon like the authorization's broad scope because of its legal flexibility. Congress would need a veto-proof majority to repeal either the 2001 or 2002 A.U.M.Fs. The 2001 and 2002 A.U.M.Fs don't explicitly give authorization to attack Iran, which is what makes President Donald Trump's airstrike near Baghdad International Airport last week, the one that killed Iranian Major General Qassem Soleimani, so controversial. The attack was billed as a preemptive strike to protect against an imminent threat to American lives. The grounds for such an action are murky, and Iran could interpret them as an act of war because the target was a top Iranian official. So what happens next? The House voted this week on a War Powers resolution to limit President Trump's ability to attack Iran.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The concurrent resolution is agreed to.
But it's an election year, and any significant bipartisanship on new resolutions is doubtful. Iran's response also comes into play. The missile strike against 2 bases housing U.S. troops in Iraq this week didn't lead to any American casualties, and President Trump has said Iran is standing down. Although it appears the risk of direct military confrontation has abated, concerns are high among those familiar with Iran's history that they could carry out covert retaliation in the weeks and months ahead. But if any retaliation leads to lost American lives, congressional attitudes may shift towards a more bipartisan war footing.